to the first containers meeting for the Podman Containers Tools project. These are basically developer meetings where we're going to decide project direction, etc. And we do have an agenda for today, but it is very short. So let's go ahead and go through our. Okay, we have a second item being added, but let's go through our first item, which is a vote for a new community manager, Mohan voted. And Neil, you want to speak to this one, or?
I assume this is so that Mohan can be like me?
Yes, this would be granting Mohan the position of community manager.
Yeah. That allows Mohan to submit tickets, etc., to the CNCF to solve some issues that we might be chasing around. He does. That's the main. We don't have any other privileges, really, right, Matt?
You're obligated to look, or you have the privilege of looking at what do you call it? Our analytics. So you can check what's going on with the website, things of that nature. And you also have privileges to run community meetings and manage website interactions.
Okay, great. So we would like support doing that. And that's why Mohan would like to do that.
Okay. Anyone have any input on this? Any discussion?
Is Mohan going to be doing, actually for all community managers, are you going to be doing the other responsibilities?
Of a community manager?
Correct.
We haven't defined that like in an official document, I don't believe.
Yes, we have. It's in the governance document. That's why I'm asking.
Yes, then we will do some of that.
Okay.
We'll do whatever governance makes us do.
I linked the community manager section of the government. So our responsibilities are participating in maintainer activities, which would basically be this meeting at this point, arranging community meetings, or managing the project website, managing social media accounts, and creating and publishing minutes for these meetings. So that's not that intensive, but yes.
Yes, we will do that.
Okay. Any further questions? Otherwise, we can call a core maintainer vote.
I just have a process question, Matt. If you look at the governance, it says that the nominee is supposed to put a PR together, and that's where the voting goes. So I'm just asking, did we change?
We did not.
Okay.
Would we like to do it via PR? That's just as easy.
Well, I had to go look at what exactly the community managers were doing. And so I just did a quick read on that, and that's why I'm asking these questions. So.
Yeah, the document does say that that voting should be done to PR.
Yeah, let's make it happen. So
I think we can air any grievances now, though. I mean, otherwise it's just we can do a nice vote in the.
All right, fair enough. Any reservations against adding Mohan that we should hash out now?
My only reservation was that all community managers try to do their responsibilities as much as they can. And if that's the established course, I'm fine with it. I'd be happy to give them a looks good to me in a PR.
Anyone else have feelings on this? Otherwise, this will be a very short discussion. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for that. It says a core maintainer will put the PR together, so I guess after this, I will put a PR against the Podman main repo, listing him as a community manager if we can get some acts on that.
great.
Okay. And we have one other thing on the agenda, which is Buildah CNCF documentation updates. I believe Tom linked a PR for that in the chat. Tom,
You're on mute.
Sorry, I'm trying to press too many buttons at once. I'm not doing well at any of them. No, I'll just link the PR up there inside the document as well. So basically this document is an update to the current governance that's there for Buildah, which was pretty much just a pointer to where it was. I think as we have the concept of maintainers for each of the different projects, it doesn't make sense to have maintainers file just in Podman, where, you know, that's kind of like the overall core maintainers and community managers and all that. I think we need a section in each project that is just for the maintainers that are for that particular project. And we actually have a file there already for Buildah. So either we need to say that, no, we don't want to document this in each of the projects and remove this maintainers MD, or we need to do an update like I've suggested here, which could be modified for the wording. I don't, you know, I'm not married to the wording that's in here, but something along those lines.
The intent was always to have separate maintainers list for each project. So if that's not worded correctly in the governance model, and we want to have wording in the Buildah / Scopio models as well to say that maintainers are listed explicitly in this file, I think that's fine.
Okay.
I think the main point is core maintainers must be the same in all repos, and then you have maintainers per repo and reviewers per repo, basically. And you can be a maintainer in several of the repos as well.
Just for ease, because we have to go through the voting for each change here, would it make sense to just have a pointer or, you know, a note somewhere that says the core maintainers are in the file on Podman, and this maintainers file has the maintainers that are for Buildah or Scopio specifically?
I'm pretty sure governance says that the definitive source for core maintainers and community managers is the Podman repo. So we can either remove them, and honestly, maybe that's the way to do it. We remove community manager and core maintainer from the Buildah and Scopio files, and we include a link in both of those files back to the Podman one and say, this is the definitive source for anyone who is a core maintainer, community manager.
I'm fine with that. And it's not worded that way right now in this particular PR, but that's something that could be changed easily.
Yeah, I think if you update that PR, we can reuse the wording for Scopio as well.
Yeah, that was my goal, is to try and knock it out here first and then go ahead and change it in Scopio eventually in the next few days, weeks, whatever.
Okay. I think we have a general agreement on this one. I can put together a pull request against the Podman repo. Actually, are we going to need Podman changes for this one, Tom? Or do you think that Podman's fine?
I think Podman's fine, although we may want to just note that the maintainer files for the for Scopio and Buildah are listed in their own files. But I'd say get this one knocked out first and see where we're at with it, and then possibly do Podman later.
Roger, sounds good. So let's get some reviews on that PR Tom linked, and from there get it merged and get the same thing in Scopio. That sounds good to everyone.
And it's okay to merge this just through PR rather than through a meeting.
Yeah, but we are going to need 4 acts from the core maintainers to modify governance. But all of that is fine.
Okay, let me go ahead and make the changes because it's not right currently based on what this meeting's gone through, and I'll send out a note when it's ready for review.
All right, thank you, Tom. Okay, any further discussion on this? Otherwise, I think this will have been a very short meeting.
I just thought it might be good, Matt, this is our first meeting, to just summarize what we will normally do here and frequency and all that sort of stuff so that people get it.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I have another question. Should we maybe have a public meeting and public note somewhere? Because right now we are using like the Google Meet from Red Hat, which is fine since we all work for Red Hat right now, but it might not be fine.
I think the Google Meet would be fine, but the we should have a public calendar, I think. Right? I don't think we have to change to Zoom all of a sudden. None of us have Zoom licenses or anything like that.
Yeah, I was debating whether I should be using a HackMD for the agenda, for example, but I think it's fine as long as everyone has access to the agenda and the meeting, including non-Red Hat people once we get them.
The problem with
Why?
the Google Doc is that you can't just make it read only for everybody.
Can we consider using GitHub here to publish the minutes and discussions to do the agenda?
I think that's a great idea.
I'm okay with that. Yeah, I think that putting the stuff in the Podman repo or someplace else is probably fine.
We could make a, yeah, I guess a directory if you want, but I don't know. I don't know if you want to hide it somewhere. Go ahead, Bob.
My point was more around that this is like Red Hat owned infrastructure, and if this is a CNCF thing, shouldn't this happen with like public or CNCF infrastructure?
Okay, well, you know what? I can look into that. Ask what they probably provide facilities for us to do that. No.
One anecdote is that the cryo maintainer meetings do happen over a Google Meet. I don't think they have any trouble with external people dialing in as long as they have the meeting link.
Yeah, I think the Google Meet will be okay, but I think the other stuff we should not, like we shouldn't have it in Red Hat Google Docs and
Yeah, the cryo agendas in HackMD, for example.
because then we can then we just take this recording and put it in a public place, right? And it's fine.
Yeah, we just link to it. Remind me, does Podman have a channel on YouTube, or am I thinking of somebody else?
No, we do.
We do.
We do.
Yep.
It might make sense, I think, to put the next agenda up on HackMD so people could add to it. Although
Well, that's why I was
to do it on
contemplating.
GitHub too. Yeah.
That's why I was contemplating a discussion, because anyone with a GitHub ID can add to it. So we
I
can
think that's
start, and
reasonable.
we can already start the agenda as a discussion for the next one, like now.
Yeah.
And then we'll just take whatever's there. I just think we'd have to publicize our process.
Yeah.
That's the key, and then follow it.
And there probably should be something we have a standing agenda on anyways, right?
Sure. I think the other bit was publishing the minutes probably can just be an MD file in the contrib or something like that directory. I was going to ask Paul if he has any reservations about putting minutes into our repo.
Like Podman repo?
Yeah.
I-
So it'd be
I
the
mean-
minutes to this meeting being added, you know, it's only quarterly or something, but
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind like having the minutes afterwards there. I'm not sure if you want to have the agenda before there, because then if everybody needs to make a change and then it needs to be reviewed, it needs to be merged, that's
Yeah.
kind of ugly.
There's also
that's why I was sort of suggesting discussions, but that was just so we could keep it all in one spot. I'm not married to that idea. HackMD works fine. It's just another thing you got to know about.
I mean, that's what we are doing for community meetings. So
And or would it make sense to have the meeting minutes out on Podman.io somewhere?
I think this should be part of the repo, frankly, but you know, to show, then there's no like having to go find that we have to find a process. I mean, this is the whole ISO thing. Do you have a process, and are you following it, and can you prove it?
That's as time goes on, the less places you have things saved around in the internet, the better, right? Because it just is so confusing. You forget where things are. Backing them up, blah, blah, blah.
Do we have to do it? A corollary is we have to do this for the roadmap every quarter too. So I have to go update the roadmap for Podman every quarter. So there is a precedent set in that regard that there's quarterly updates to the repo for this kind of stuff. No.
As long as the volume is low, and I don't anticipate these meetings being that frequent, I think we're fine. For context here, right now I have this scheduled on a 1 month basis, but we can change that as necessary. I think we can do async if something comes up that needs to be discussed urgently. And my basic principle for how often we hold them is how often do we fill up the agenda.
Fair enough.
Okay. As to what Neil was discussing about what would be in this meeting, I think the basic principle is it's a engineering meeting for Podman and associated projects built in Scopio, where we discuss anything that's come up that needs a wide agreement, like changes in project direction, major breaking changes, etc. But also admin things like we were doing earlier in the meeting, adding Ruby community managers, changes to the governance model, etc., etc. Basically anything that needs wide agreement between a large number of people. Anything less than that should be handled in the actual issue or pull request that's going on.
Sounds good. Well, I guess figure this out as we go along too, right?
Yeah.
We probably want, maybe we want as a standing agenda for some of the other people to know where we're at on our CNCF journey as well. If there's any work that we have to do or anything coming up, I don't know.
If we want to have a status item for work towards sandbox/incubating, I think that's a good idea to do that monthly. I don't think this is the meeting to do like widespread project updates though. Stuff's related to the CNCF, I think is appropriate.
No, it's about, hey, you know, a bunch of that work is always maintainer work, right? That somebody has to do, and let's spread the load.
Yeah, that's fair. All right. I think we're running out of topics to discuss. Anyone have anything else? Otherwise, we can call the meeting and figure out an exact agenda process for next time offline. So we'll have a better idea of where it lives and how to add stuff to it.
Should we have a channel in the CNCF Slack for the maintainers?
I think that's what Podman Dev is for. We have a private mailing list for maintainers. I think that's how we'll handle anything that's too private to be done by Slack.
Can anybody come to this meeting?
This meeting is restricted to just Podman, Buildah, Scopio, maintainers, core maintainers, community managers.
Okay. Then sounds good to me.
Okay. Final call for topics. All right. Hearing nothing. Thank you for attending, everyone. Nice and quick. And I will give you back 40 minutes. Nice talking to everyone. Sorry for the Friday meeting, and goodbye.
Bye.